welcome back. My name is Lynn, and welcome to All Chats with Lynn, where we discuss everyday topics about everyday people and things that we do on a daily basis. So I'm glad you're joining me today. Grab your coffee or whatever your best beverage is for the day, and we're going to sit and chat about fear and panic and what we should be doing with all the things that are up and coming. Should we be panicking? Should we be running in fear? That's what we're going to talk about. So if I were to go on social media right now, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, on anything else that's out there, you're going to see a lot of conversation. You're going to see a lot of chit chats about fear, buying things. We got to run out and grab these 50 things. These 10 things are essential. You have to have these in your stockpile. There's many other things that have been portrayed as you have to do this. Now hear me out. I have a lot to say about this topic, and I'm only going to say it in a short frame. If we can think back to Y2K, remember Y2K? Anybody else remember that? I remember talking to my parents, and my parents are very sensible people. Neither one panic, neither one tend to run out and do things because we have to. Now, my mother was not stupid. My mother had a stockpile. We always had extra canned goods, always, just because you just never know. You can't get to the store, whatever the case might be, for a period of time. And my mom we didn't have a lot of space in the house, so she would get the low-lying bins and put them under the couch. And we used, as kids would joke, "Mom, we got food under the couch again." But she had a stockpile and used the space that she had available. And I remember when Y2K was coming, my mom did stock up a little bit more so that if everybody else bought stuff and there was less to be had of certain items that we really enjoyed as a family, she had them in the house to get us over a period of time, let's say. And my dad was like, "We don't need any of that." My mom, wanted a few things. Again, neither one of my parents are panickers. But I remembered during the Y2K, my dad telling us a story about someone in their church who basically hit the ultimate panic button. He never told us who it was. He was just at one day saying that they had gone out, they were with friends, and they were over their house, I guess, for dinner. And this person said, "Oh, you have to come see my Y2K stockpile." And my dad went down to the basement of this person's house, and he said it was wall to wall to wall to wall to wall food. He said there was enough food in that house, in that stockpile, and there's only 2 people in the family living in the home. He said they could probably feed themselves from now until kingdom comes and still have food left over. He said it was an unbelievable amount of food, to the point where it was so excessive he felt it was just downright sinful to have that much stockpile food. He said it's one thing to have essentials. It's one thing to think through, bad weather, you're not feeling well. We've talked about this. You've heard this 1,000 times. There could be 1,000,001 reasons why you should have a stockpile. It's just a good thing to have. But I learned from that moment of the Y2K that I really shouldn't be panicking. Now, I'm going to say different layers to this. I'm a Christian. Am I walking in the faith that I believe in, where the Bible says, "I will supply all your needs"? There are verses in the Bible that also say we should have a supply of things on hand. It doesn't use the word stockpile, but it leads toward that. My dad always had a saying, "When is enough enough, and when is too much too much?" And my dad would say that when I needed to ask certain questions of him. He would say, "When is enough enough, and when is too much too much?" And what he was trying to do is to get me to think. So I'm going to ask you the same question. When is enough enough, and when is too much too much? Now, if you're one person and you have 500 pounds of rice, can you eat 500 pounds of rice? 10 pounds of rice, 25 pounds of rice for one person is probably going to last you a really long time. Then you now need to figure out storage for that. And then you need to figure out adequate storage for that in terms of the mice and the bugs and all that, not getting to it. Am I saying not to stockpile? Absolutely not. I am a huge believer in a stockpile. But I will go back to say when is enough enough and when is too much too much. I remembered again with the Y2K, you know, my dad telling us a story about this woman, and I started to get a little like, ooh, you know, what should I be doing here? And I remember at that time I was canning soup. I was water bath canning. I didn't have a pressure cooker. I know some of you were going to have your, you know, have all the comments in the world about you don't water bath, all these. I learned the Amish way, and I learned from the Amish. I have Amish friends that live out in Quarryville, Pennsylvania. And they taught me how to water bath all my canning. Long period of time on the hours on the stove. But I did have a lot of those types of cans. We lived in a tiny mobile home that we were renting. I mean tiny. Like the living room kitchen was one room. I had one bookshelf. I didn't have a lot of room. We did the best we could and supplies and sticking things everywhere. And at the time there were 3 of us in the house. So I did the best I could. But then I got a little panicky thinking. So then I heard everybody say, oh, the banks are going to shut down. It's going to zero out during Y2K, and there's not going to be any money to be had. The gas pumps are going to shut down. The banks are going to shut down. All the stores registers are going to shut down. And panic ran across the land. This is even big. This was before YouTube was big and all the other social platforms were big. This is just the chatter from everybody. So I said to my husband, we better go get some cash because, you know, we don't make cash on us. So we went, we got some cash out of the bank. And I really needed that cash in the bank to pay bills that I wrote against it. But then I was panicked of like, what do I do? I took the money out. I just remembered like feeling like I shouldn't be panicking, but this is what you do, right? You panic, you go out and you do what you have to do. Because you don't want to die, you don't want to starve and all the rest. And I kept hearing my dad say, you know, when is enough enough and when is too much too much? So we came home, and I remember my husband, who's very calm, saying, I just can't see the banks going out of business, and all the stores going out of business, and all the gas pumps going out of business, and everything switching to zero, and the whole world going bankrupt. Just don't see that. I think people that run businesses are a little bit smarter at Chase Bank and all the rest to figure out what's going on and, you know, all of this happening. Which made sense, but you still hit the panic button, right? Well, Y2K is come and gone. I wonder what that woman's basement looks like who had the wall to wall to wall to wall to wall food, and how much of it, you know, yes, expiration versus best by dates and all the rest, but you know what I'm saying? That some of that food was probably not good after a while or whatever, or, you know, I have things that are the best by date, but I've opened it past the best by date, and they said, well, you can still eat it, and I've eaten it out of a tin can, you know, not out of the can, but, you know, warmed up, whatever that can of whatever it might be, and you can taste the tin can. So I know that even though it says the best by date, after that date, things do start to alter flavor. And I often wondered, what did she do with all that food? Did she give it to a food bank? Did she get rid of it when she realized she didn't need it? I don't know. Now, I'm not saying that you should not make wise choices for yourself. I'm just looking now. The elections are coming up. The beginning of the year is coming up. The winter is settling in. Well, if this weather would ever catch up with itself, right now we're in a very huge warm season here in New Jersey. We should be settling into cooler weather. But, you know, the snow and the ice and potential whatevers might come and go. Hurricanes, tornadoes, all these, you know, things that are forces of nature. When do you stockpile? When do you panic? When do you hit the fear button? I'm here to tell you to take a deep breath. Me, myself, and I need to remember where my faith lies and who my trust lies, where my trust lies. I don't want to trust the media. I don't want to trust other people. I don't want to trust social media. Now, in case you didn't know, I could put on here all that I want in my thumbnail and in my title and even in my video to tell you to hit the panic button to get sales and boost revenue and all the rest, whether it's on social media here, It's on another platform, right? Fear sells, panic sells. People want to set the stage where you have to buy this now because they're probably going to be making money some way or another on that particular platform, item, product, whatever. What I am telling you is to use your own wisdom and discernment. If you're not sure what to do, who do you trust? Is there someone in your life, whether it's a family member, a good friend, a coworker, a confidant, whatever, and say, hey, what do you make of all this? I do. I really trust my son and my husband's judgment on these things. My dad's not here anymore, but I trusted my dad. There's a lot of people I would not trust as far as I could throw them. Some people will tell you something because, it benefits them. So they'll tell you to do the opposite. There's other people that are just full of fear for everything. I'm not going to go to them and say, should I be fearful? Of course they're going to say yes. Now, the election is coming up. It is a very big election for various reasons in our country. Can it have some bearing on things? Possibly. The winter is coming. Can that have some bearing on things? Possibly. Hurricane season is here. Tornado season might be here. Whatever else in your area could be, the season for that. Is that reason to fear and panic? I wouldn't say it's reasons to fear or panic, but I would say it's a time for you to use your resources in a very wise and practical way. Okay, let's talk about wise and practical. What's wise and practical? I think a couple cases of water, 3 cases of water at minimum, should be something you have in your house on a weekly basis. Your water could go out. My water pump went. We were without water. It was over a week. And so it wasn't like a storm, so I could easily run to the store and get water if I needed it. But quickly, when I woke up in the morning or during the day, I needed to have water on hand. So I think several cases of water, however you want to slice that up, is a good thing. I think having extra food in the house is always a good thing. An extra stockpile. If you were to ask me, my minimum would be 2 weeks worth of food. 2 weeks, if you've got the flu for a week and you need another week to recover, or you just don't feel good, or you're having to go back to work, and who feels like going out after, having 2 weeks worth of food to get you through is a good place to be. Having some cash on you is never a bad thing. The ATMs could go down. There could be a power outage from a car accident in the area, and you just don't want to have to be traveling miles away to get to the next ATM. So having a little cash on you is not a bad thing. Having things stockpiled, such as an extra tube of toothpaste or 2. You don't want to be running, oh no, you go to brush your teeth today and you're out of toothpaste. Now what do I do? Go to work with bad breath, or, do you have a spare tube of toothpaste? Keep a couple of those on hand. Keep some extra soap on hand. I like to keep wipes so that if we lost power, or if somebody's not feeling good and they don't feel like taking a full shower, they can at least freshen up maybe with something like that. Use common sense. What would you do in the case of, and start making a list of some of those things. Should you panic and should you fear? Absolutely not. Do I panic and do I fear? Yes, I have to admit sometimes I do. I have had to learn to turn social media off. YouTube and all the rest will have people on it that abuse the platform that they're on. There's not always honesty from their perspective. And you know what? It's freedom of speech. They can get on and say what they want. Use discernment who you listen to. Think through what they say. That makes practical sense. That makes sense to have a couple cases of water, extra tubes of toothpaste, have a little cash on hand, have flashlights with batteries on hand, have a few extra blankets in case, all of a sudden the power went out and it's cold. Have at least a half a tank to a full tank of gas at all times. Have 2 weeks worth of a stockpile. Have phone numbers written down on a piece of paper, maybe on the refrigerator, in case for some reason your cell phone dies or you can't access your contact list and you don't have those phone numbers memorized. Have foods that you can eat right out of a can in case you can't have a cooking, stovetop of some sort. things that, SpaghettiOs, let's say. Yeah, are they great cold? Probably not. But hey, if you needed to eat them, you could eat them. A can of tuna, have a can opener to open those cans. Don't always depend on fresh or frozen, because if appliances are not available for whatever reason, you're going to have to eat things out of a can. Think through those things. How many people in your family? How much food are you going to need? Take a deep breath before you make any decision. I've had a lot of decisions in the past few weeks in my own personal life, different areas of my life I've had to make decisions on. And one of the things is I keep hearing myself say, you don't have to make the decision right this second. It's not like it's a live or die right this moment. As somebody asked me something today, and I said to them, I'm not in a position to make a decision right now. And they kind of looked at me like, and the reason why? I just don't feel it would benefit you or me if I made that decision at this moment. You've given me a lot of information to think about. I need to process that information, and I want to make a good, wise decision. If you're in a life and death situation and there's a flood coming in your house, yes, you make the wise decision to get out of the house. But if there's not a flood or a fire immediately upon you, take a deep breath, assess what you have, figure out what you need to do. Here's the other thing. There's a lot of people out there that live paycheck to paycheck. You can't be spending all your money on food and necessities and stockpiles and all the rest, because you only have so much money. Some of you don't live in a huge house. You're in a small apartment. Maybe you're in a studio, maybe even something. Some of you might be, doing the van camping and the car camping life, and you're living out of your car and your van, and your space is super limited. You're going to have to use your resources the best you can. Figure out what is wise and best for you and those around you that you take care of. And for me, I live in a house of a handicap situation, which we'll go into in some of the other episodes coming up. But I have a husband with epilepsy and a son with autism. So for me, there are things that I need to have in my home to meet my family's needs that you might not need. So if I were to ask somebody a question about, well, would you do this? And they'd be like, no, I wouldn't do that. Well, of course they would. They're not in the same situation I'm in. So again, using your own wisdom and your own discernment, I think is a good thing. Asking somebody you honestly trust is a good thing. Turning to all the social media platforms for your, be in the know of all that information is not the best thing. Am I saying don't stockpile? That's not what I am saying. If that's what you heard me say, that was incorrect. I am saying stockpile. I am saying have provisions. I am saying use your wisdom and the brain that God gave you to decide what is your family's needs, what best suits our needs. Who's in my family? Who do I have to take care of? What supplies would be good to have on hand? How much money do I have to work with? How much space do I have to work with? How much time do I have to work with? What resources do I have? You pull all that together. The people that just lost their homes, and if they had a stockpile in all these hurricanes that just washed away homes, they lost everything. Whatever stockpile they had was washed away. You might have somebody say, see, they had a stockpile and a lot of good that did them. Listen, I can't predict the future. I'm not God. I can use brains, wisdom, and discernment to do the best I can with what I have. I cannot control that the house would be washed away, but if it wasn't and the roof came off, but I still had extra food in the house, I'd be grateful for that. We cannot predict the future. We can only plan the best we can. But I really want to urge you to use wisdom and discernment and trust the people that you trust and just ignore the people you don't trust. Watch what you're watching on TV and any other social media platform. Don't allow them to influence you in a way you don't want to be influenced. If you know you tend to panic and fear, don't be watching things that are fearful and panic driven. They're doing that for a purpose. They want to boost the numbers. They want to boost their sales. You got to think through this. This is a business for a lot of people. I hope that helps. I hope that takes some of the fear and the panic out of you and makes you take a deep breath and think through resources, money, space, provisions, necessities. who's in my family, what we need, and so on, and then come up with a plan, a wise plan that suits you and your family. And you know what? Sometimes all you have is enough brain cells to get through today. So for today, and you look around, you say, you know, I don't have any extra water, and I could use a few more canned goods. Maybe for today, go get a case of water and a few extra canned goods. Tomorrow will bring another day, a good night's sleep. You know, I had the song running through my head, the sun will come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow it'll be a better day. So tomorrow you wake up and it's fresh and new, and you can think more clearly. Maybe you've had time to sort of process that, you know, I don't get paid for 5 days and I really can't spend the money right now. And you can't. You just make do with what you have. You learn to use the resources that you have. There you go. Hope you enjoyed this podcast, episode number 2, here with All Chats with Lynn Wilson. Thanks so much for coming over, and we'll catch you on the next episode.